Here's everything that you need to know about Alpine Valley, Wisconsin. Welcome back to another Ski Along with Matthew Zabransky. That's me. So excited for this episode because this ski area is one of the first ski areas that I've ever learned to ski at. Has a lot of nostalgic factor for me. Oh man, and this last year I got to go back there for the first time in many years, so it was really awesome, and that's where these POVs are going to come from. Before we dive into some details about this, the first thing I want to point out is that there are actually 3 Alpine Valleys in the Midwest. There's one in Ohio, there's one in Michigan, and there's one in Wisconsin. We are covering the Wisconsin one today, just to be clear. A lot of people get confused. AV is used as an abbreviation, but always make sure that you are on the right website for the right Alpine Valley that you're trying to go to. One's owned by Vail, that would be the one in Ohio, and then the other 2 are owned by Wisconsin Resorts Incorporated, and those are both the Michigan and the Wisconsin one. So just a couple of clarification points right there before we even start to get into some basic information. But let's do that right now. So Alpine Valley, Wisconsin, all of this footage that you're going to see on screen in just a minute here was filmed in February 7th, actually, of 2023. And it was a gloomy day, typical kind of Midwest day, right? Like, these are the days that happen. I also going to mention that we had a kind of a weird February warm-up during this week. And I have to say, I was so impressed with Alpine Valley snow. We're going to talk a lot more about that as we kind of work through the video. But yeah, it was like a very unseasonably warm kind of week for southern Wisconsin in February. So if you it kind of seems like there's some snow missing in some of the off-the-run areas, that's kind of why, because it was just kind of an unseasonably warm week that week. The location of Alpine Valley is in Elkhorn, Wisconsin, which is about an hour and a half or 2 hours from Chicago and about 45 minutes from Milwaukee. It is definitely known as kind of one of the go-to places. There's, I would say, a handful of go-to places for those that live in the Chicagoland area. If they're going to go north to go skiing, this is definitely one of them. That's hence why I grew up skiing at Alpine Valley. It's just a really popular spot. Hours, they typically open, for the season, they open in late November and they go until about mid-March. They do daily operations once they get open. So, they're one of those ski areas, once they get all their snowmaking taken care of in the early season, they might close for a couple days, but they're kind of the ski area that's going to be open basically, 9 in the morning until the evening, every day of the week. As always, check their website for the most up-to-date information, but they are typically doing daily operations, especially after kind of the preseason, early season hits. When they're in the swing of things, they're open every single day of the week. As far as pricing goes for Alpine Valley in Wisconsin here, an all-day weekend or holiday ticket's going to run you $76. If you go to just their beginner area, it's going to be $52. Now, note on that, it is just their conveyors. It used to include 1 or 2 of the lifts on that side. Now it is just conveyors. And then they do have evening tickets as well. And then weekday rates are a little bit cheaper, $66, depending on the times that you go. They do have sessions here, so just something to keep in mind depending on when you go. They obviously also have rental equipment as well. We'll put some of that information up on screen so you can kind of take a look at that. As always, just refer to their website for the most up-to-date information and pricing as you're watching this video. Pass members, as far as which multi-resort passes they're part of, they're really only part of 2. The Skiing Wisconsin Passport, which is a really good value if you do ski some of those lower Wisconsin areas. I know this year they did put a little more parameters on when you can use that. So check out their website if you want more information on that pass. However, it is sold out for the season already. And then they're also part of the Hall of Fame pass as well. Number of trails, they technically have 20 trails on the map. Number of lifts, they have 7 chairlifts, including 3 high-speed quads, which is crazy. We're going to talk more about that too. They have 2 rope tows and then 4 carpets. So there's a lot to break down here for being a relatively small ski area. There's a lot packed into this small area. Vertical rise, we get this from Google Earth just so it's the most accurate. I was getting just above 300, about 313 or so. Bottom down by the river area up to the very top of Valley Flyer area. But without further ado, let's dive right into the POVs. As a lot of you already know, we always start on looker's left of the hill, and we just do this honestly because it's strategic for me when I go to edit it. I know exactly where we're going to be. So the first lift that we are going to actually ride up is the Hall Triple, which is a haul lift that's all the way on the left. It services basically their terrain park along with the shelter run, which is kind of a terrain park. We'll kind of talk about that when we go through that. There's also 2 rope tows that we didn't get to ski because they weren't running. It was a weekday operation, so obviously they were kind of wearing their bare bones as far as lifts. It was very, very, very quiet there. Alpine Valley could be a little busy on the weekends because it is so close to 2 major metros, but this day there was like almost nobody on the hill. Yeah, I mean, I have vivid memories of riding this lift. I used to be a park rat, and they didn't have the rope tows when I was there, so I would ride this lift nonstop because it services like all over their park terrain. And man, I have some vivid memories of riding this in sometimes freezing cold temperatures late at night, just so I can lap the park. At that time, I was on a snowboard. So they really have 2 parks, and then they kind of have an auxiliary park that is below shelter that we'll talk about and go through in a minute. But the first run that we're going to do is East Pass. So when we call off this lift, we're going to take a left and go all the way out to the edge that kind of dog legs around, and we'll do that in just a minute here. All right, so technically this is East Pass to Alpine, so it's kind of a mixture of 2 runs, but this is their terrain park, and it's always been their terrain park. As long as I can remember, they've always put it over here. It's a really great area for it. It's kind of out of the way, and it has a nice pitch for it, as you can see. They do a great job with features here. You know, it's a typical Midwestern terrain park. I mean, I feel like everybody in the Midwest, with you know, maybe reserved for a few, doesn't have a really great terrain park, and this is just another one along those lists of just really nice parks. They do have 2 rope tows now, which is awesome. So that's great for people that just want to lap and those features, but you can see kind of some of those features up on screen. This run just kind of dog legs around, and then it's going to come back over to that triple chair that we just rode up. So you can see some jump line features on this run as well. Now, this is the Mohawk run, and this is actually what I would consider their bread and butter terrain park. So this would be kind of where you're going to find your main features and kind of what's going on in their park. This is going to be their main park. They're going to switch out their features relatively regularly as well. And yeah, I mean, it's really just a really nice park, nicely spread out, a lot of features to hit. You know, I think I went on a day where they were kind of working on doing a little bit of a reset. So, you know, it's not as packed as it could normally be. And again, with that warm-up that we got, it was kind of probably in a process of a reset. But I really like how unique some of these features are off some of the side hits and things like that. It's a really cool park, great for all ability levels, and they do a great job upkeeping it. Now we're going to move over to the shelter run, and this one they actually were running a border cross kind of track on, which was awesome. You know, I just kind of skirted around the side of it so you can kind of get it more. It was such a overcast day. It was hard to get some definition to see the features if I did a POV of me going through it. This was a ton of fun. I don't know if this is a staple or if they were just running it for an event, but man, this was a lot of fun going through all these rollers and hitting some of these like jumps and gaining speed through these bank curves. It was awesome. I love these when I see them. They're always a great way, especially for us older people that don't do as much park anymore. We're kind of like transitioning into just doing features, soft features such as jumps, rollers, side hits, things like that. These are really, really fun. So this was great to see Alpine Valley, and I hope they incorporate this a little bit more into some of their runs. This is great. I hope they keep it up full time. We're going to move on over to their bread and butter chairlift. This is the Valley Flyer. It's a high-speed quad and is actually one of the first high-speed quads in the Midwest. It was built in 1999. I have a lot of memories on this one. My dad used to take, I would have been 9 years old when this was installed. So I have a lot of memories of riding this with him, and we actually are riding this together today as well. This is great, and I think that's the one thing we got to talk about with Alpine Valley is how many high speeds that they have. They have 3 total, including a beginner dedicated one that we did not ride because it was closed, and then this one as well. They've always been top of the game when it comes to installing high speeds, especially for how small the vertical is. I mean, this lift gets you up there quick. couple of minutes and you're up there. It's really lappable, especially in a day like today where there are no crowds. It's amazing to be able to lap these chairs and get as many runs in as they can. And as you can see, this front face actually has a lot of pitch to it. And we'll talk about that as we ski through that. But first, let's enjoy the rest of this high-speed lift. Alrighty, so we're going to actually do 2 laps down this run, and the reason being is they actually had a mogul patch on the side, and this is another thing. I just love this, right? Like, I love ski areas, putting features for everybody, even though not everybody skis moguls. It's fun for those that do, or people that want to challenge their ability. So you get to see some Matthew mediocre mogul skiing here. But this was great. They were nicely spaced out, nice rhythm. A little bit firmer just because of the weather that we had with some of the freeze-thaw cycle, but it was a lot of fun. I love seeing mogul patches in the Midwest. I'm, not an amazing bump skier, but it's just a fun way to test your ability. And then as you can see, it kind of just has this really kind of like nice rolling terrain that you can go down, get some nice high-speed turns in, and basically it's going to take you all the way down to the bottom of the valley there, and you're going to be able to hit up that high speed and continue to lap this all day. Now we're going to do another run where I just kind of skirt on the left side of this run so you can get a feel of what it would be without the moguls. And as you can see, it's got a really nice pitch to it. That's the one thing I really do love about Alpine Valley. That front face is relatively consistent, and it's really pretty solid skiing, especially for how easy it is to lap. And anybody that follows my channel knows that lapability for me is huge, because if I'm going to go for a few hours, which I normally do, I want to try to get as many runs in as possible. So getting direct to pitch, getting right into it, and just getting those turns in is huge. And I think Alpine Valley really excels at that with the mixture of the high speed and their pitch directly off the lift. It's pretty fun. It's amazing. Moving on over, this is going to be the lodge run, and we are going to take kind of the skier's right side of this. It's very similar to the Broadway run that we just did, pitch-wise. Might have a little bit more going down, but it's just another one that's just, man, is it awesome. Another thing that I love about Alpine Valley is that all of their runs are tree-lined. They might be wide, but they have trees on both sides, and that's something that a lot of Midwestern hills, especially southern Wisconsin, some of those other areas down there, they tended to widen out the area, not have as many tree-lined runs, and I love that Alpine Valley has that. It makes it feel like a more defined resort ski area, and the runs just feel a little bit more separated than some other ski areas, but a really nice lappable run. And then finally on this face, we're going to do Big Thunder. I have vivid memories of my dad taking me down this when I was just a few years old. He created this harness. I would say this is probably the steepest run that they have. It definitely has a direct fall line pitch. This is the one that if I had a choice between all of them, I probably would bop between Big Thunder and Lodge and just lap the Valley flyer chair. And that's kind of my go-to when I go to Alpine Valley if I'm skiing by myself. This is a great pitch. It's going to get you the skills that you need to ski anywhere in the world, honestly, if you really take it slow and focus on edge-to-edge contact. And I think this is, I would say this is probably Alpine Valley's signature run if I had to pick one of them. Now we're going to move over to another high-speed quad. I told you they had 3, and this one is actually kind of dedicated to beginners, which is really, really cool. I remember when they were installing this lift back in 2004. It's a high-speed Palma quad, and I thought it was crazy that a ski area in southern Wisconsin of this size was going to have 2 high speeds, and now they have 3. It's crazy. I would have been 14 years old at that time. It's really cool. But yes, as you can see, it doesn't go up to the highest elevation like the Valley Flyer does. It'll actually stay to the right. So I think it's so cool because you don't see lifts like this in the Midwest, where it's not very common to have a lift, especially a high-speed lift, that services just beginner terrain. And that's exactly what they have here, as you'll see in just a minute. First of all, it's great for loading and unloading for beginners because it slows the chair down, obviously, when it detaches off the line. So it's a lot easier for them to get used to this. And then, obviously, the terrain it serves is great as well. And we're going to see that right now. So this run, we're going to go easy does it down to Timber Trail. And this is kind of like, it's an access trail that'll bring you down, and then you have a choice of all these trails going through. So we're going to take the first one on our right here. We're We're going to talk about these snow guns in a minute. I'll talk about those when we go up the triple chair, which will be a little bit later, but there's a lot to talk about there too. And speaking of which, this is kind of a mild cruiser. You know, it's got that little front, you know, face that kind of comes down off of that catwalk trail, and then it just kind of mellows out and just kind of cruises along. But again, those tree line runs, man, it's so cool to see that in the Midwest. This is a great intermediate beginner run. Kind of comes through, has that little bit of a face on the front to kind of challenge your abilities, but awesome run. Next, we're going to be doing a very similar thing. We're just going to be going a little bit further down to Timber Gulch. So we're going to go one further down and do that. And it has a very similar vibe. You know, just the trees are cut just slightly different. Obviously, you're up on the catwalk a little more. I would say this one's kind of a little bit mellower because you're not getting that first pitch that you got on the other one. So this one kind of, as you can see, as you make that corner, it doesn't have that steep drop off like the last run that we did. So this, I would start here. You know, if you're looking to get warmed up, if you're scared about that kind of that initial pitch, kind of wrap yourself around and then come back. But again, just a really nice wide open kind of cruising type run, tree line. The snow was amazing the day that I was there, especially given the conditions. This will kind of feed you right back to that high speed quad. So cool to see a high speed quad in a beginner's area like this. It is quite amazing. All right, and then we're going to go one more further down, and we didn't do the catwalk on this one, but this run is actually called First Adventure, and this kind of follows this triple chair here that we're going to be riding in just a minute. This one has none of that kind of drop-off, especially if you get it from the First Adventure chair. You know, it's a little bit mellower, as you can see here, it kind of mellows out, but it's a little narrower too, so it kind of feels a little more defined. Again, another just nice beginner run in this little pod here, and that feels a little bit different from the other two that we just skied. On our right, you're going to be seeing that beginner's area. We do that at the very last. We're going to skip over that because I thought it was just kind of defined in its own little pod, so we will do that in just a bit. All right, next we're going to ride up this 1975 Hull Triple. I do have to mention that they rebuilt the bottom terminal and drivetrain by SkyTrack back in 2015, so it's been overhauled to a T. This is a great chairlift. It services some awesome intermediate beginner terrain. The next thing I want to talk about is these red snow guns that you see everywhere. I don't know the exact count, but they have upwards to, I think, 120 or 130 of these guns, which is absolutely crazy given how much area they have to cover. As you can see, almost every 30, 40 feet, they have a tower gun. And what that means is they are able to make a ton of snow in a short period of time. In fact, they are consistently the first ski area to be 100% open across the Midwest and even the country because of this. They're handmade guns. They're called Bruce Firestone guns. Bruce Firestone is the individual that helped design that gun. And they're exclusive to their family of resorts. So you'll see them at Mount Holly, Pine Knob, Alpine Valley, Michigan, and Alpine Valley here in Wisconsin. And I just got to give a huge kudos to their snowmaking team. They're well known across the industry for this. And every time I go there, the snow has been phenomenal. It always has been. And it's awesome to see how much coverage they can have. So if you're looking for an early season area that's going to have a lot of skiable terrain, Alpine Valley is definitely one of your go-tos for southern Wisconsin. Even though it might be a little bit smaller in size compared to some of the ski areas that are going to be a little bit more north, they are almost always 100% open, which is really, really, really cool. Now, I think we're going to ski some of my hidden gems of the ski area, especially if you enjoy kind of intermediate beginner terrain. This is Valley View. It's marked as a green circle. I really enjoy this run for beginners, honestly. I think it's great. It's wide enough where you're never feeling like you're pinched at any point. It has a relatively consistent pitch, but not overbearing by any stretch of the imagination for a beginner. I think it's great. It's served directly by that chairlift, so you can get on and off it. And it's usually pretty quiet on this part of the ski area. You know, most people are heading over to those high speeds, so this area doesn't see as much congestion, which is great for those beginners that are trying to get in. And this next run that we're going to do is just the next run over. I think this might be one of the better runs at Alpine Valley, which is crazy. And I think this is their most recent run. This run is called Snowdrift Trail, and I love this run. It almost has like a double fall line, kind of flans out and then comes back down. I think that's why it's a blue square versus a green circle, but this is a lot of fun. And as you can see from the cord, nobody's touched this run. So get over there and ski this one. This one's really fun for a few laps. If you're done skiing that front face, and if you want to do some casual blue groomer laps, I love this run. This was a lot of fun to rip down, and I did a few laps here for sure. All right, and we told you we were going to do the entire ski area, so of course we got to do the conveyors in the beginner area as well. So this is Conveyor 3, the one all the way over to Looker's left. I love their learning area here, their dedicated learning area. They have, is it 1, 2, 3, 4? Sorry, I'm counting them on the map because there's so many conveyors here. It's amazing. I think they have 6 total conveyors. So this is one of those areas, like if we mentioned it earlier in this video, but they have a beginner's ticket that's a little bit reduced, and this is the access that you'll get to these beginning areas. But I gotta say, this is awesome. It's fenced off. Nobody's intruding on your space here. You're not gonna get people ripping through, which you do see at some ski areas, and it's just dedicated to beginners. Very mellow, a great place if you're trying to teach a little one. You got your own little zone here that you can, take as many turns as you need to without traffic, a bunch of people in the way. It's awesome. I love ski areas that do this because I think it's the right way to do it. To kind of put a separate beginners area for people so they can learn without having the stress of, some other skiers kind of getting in the way. This is the middle carpet area here. I think this is technically Conveyor 5 on the list. So as you can see, it just gives you a better picture of how wide and how many carpets there are in this beginners area. It's crazy. I love it though. Because this is the stuff that makes a big deal for those first timers that come out. And they have a dedicated zone like this to work on their turns and to really feel comfortable. And then go up to that high speed that loads a little bit slower. I gotta say, Alpine Valley absolutely crushes the beginner's game when it comes to this. They've really thought this through as far as progression. You go from this. You have that other triple chair so you can get used to loading on a normal fixed grip chair. You can also, if you don't feel comfortable quite yet, you can use the slower loading of the high speed. I can't think of a better situation for a brand new beginner. It's fantastic. And I also have to mention the staff members that we see up here were so helpful. Those blue and iconic yellow coats, they were the entire day. It felt like I was at Disneyland. Like people were just saying, so good to see you and have a great day. It felt like home the entire time that I was there. So as you can see, just a really mellow pitch, really wide, really nice, wide open place to learn how to ski. It's really fun. Well, that's Alpine Valley. We did miss a few things, so let's talk about that right now. Some of the chairlifts that we missed, just because they weren't open, because it was a midweek, we missed their third and newest high-speed quad, which was installed in 2011, Super Glide. And that's a light near Palma. And as I mentioned, that is their newest lift, so that was kind of right where that Mogul run was. That lift goes right over there. They do have the 2 ropes by the park that we didn't ride, obviously, because they weren't open, but those are open usually on the weekends as well. Lodge chair, which kind of goes across the river. It is a riblet triple. I don't think they run that one very often, but it used it as a kind of redundant lift. And then Snowdrift, where that run that I talked about being so nice over on that side over there. And that's another riblet triple as well. Some of the runs that we didn't get to were mostly connector runs, so they're just kind of like, ways that you can get to other parts of the ski area. So that'd be Northwest Pass, Easy Pass, Halfway, and Cutthroat. And then last, but certainly not least, is an area that was not open because, again, it was just a weekday, but the Baby Steps area. And this is just an expansion of their already awesome beginner terrain. So on the other side of the river there, they have another couple of conveyors that serve as very mellow beginner terrain. So that's like, if you're really brand new to the industry and you want to check that out, it's awesome. It's really nice for, either toddlers or first timers that are nervous about getting too much speed. It's a really nice setup over there, and that's on the other side, and we'll put a map up so you can kind of see that on there as well. Alpine Valley. Oh man, I have so many memories here, but I really love Alpine Valley, especially for its location. I think the thing that sets Alpine Valley apart compared to some of the neighbors in the area is its tree-lined runs, its 3 high speeds, and honestly, its pitch coming off the front face. They have a little bit more vertical than some of the other ski areas in the neighborhood. And from us coming from the southwest side of Chicago, Alpine Valley was like it was in the rotation, but it was always a treat. It was a little bit further of a drive, but it was always like we went there a frequent amount. I love it. It's a great place to get laps in. One thing I do want to just mention really quick, though, is as with any ski area that is relatively near a metro, it does tend to get a little bit more crowded on weekends and holidays. So just keep that in mind as you are planning. But as you can see from the videos that we showed, if you go on a midweek, it really is kind of a ski area to yourself with high speeds, which is absolutely amazing. All things said and done, Alpine Valley has a little bit of something for everybody, including high-speed lifts, beginners area, terrain park, everything. And it should definitely be on your list if you live in southern Wisconsin, Chicagoland area. It really should be kind of one of those regular staples. But I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you want to check out our other videos highlighting other ski areas from around the Midwest, we will link that playlist so you can go check those out. But until next time, I hope all of you have a great week. Pray for that snow, and I'll see you out there.